So the New York Jets have officially cut down to their 53-man roster. So what does it mean? I think I can speak for a lot of us as Jets fans and content creators is the majority of us did not get this right in any of our predictions, and that's okay. We're not the professionals. That's why we have Joe Douglas, Coach Salah to go ahead and make these kind of calls. However, although there was a lot of surprising cuts, we got some good news in regards to what the final 53 man looks like, as well as some individuals who are to bring back on the practice squad. If you don't know, I'm going to go ahead and brief you. This is your New York Jets situation debrief on your New York Jets situation report, as well as the 53-man roster for the Jets. Let's go. All right, let's be honest. I don't think any of us saw the Jets making some of the cuts that they made as being cuts that we were expecting. I know I wasn't expecting it. I didn't see the Jets, keeping the likes of a Ty Johnson over Tevin Coleman. I didn't think they'd keep either one, if I'm being honest. I'm a big fan of the fact that they kept Bam Knight, but I figured if they're going to keep a veteran presence on the roster, it will be Tevin Coleman. It just makes more sense. Tevin Coleman understands the system. He's more effective. He didn't have a bad year last year. And if they're going to keep somebody there purely off of veteran understanding and presence, why keep Ty Johnson? He didn't do much to impress last year, but nonetheless, he made the roster. Tevin did not. You look around as well, we saw that, Tendell Smart got cut. We also lost Parks. Parks also got cut. Nazarene got cut. Like there were cuts that were made that I don't think any of us, for in the slightest bit, assumed the Jets would be making. And guys like Vinny Curry still around. Sheldon Rankins is still around. All right, Ty Johnson is on this roster. Some surprise guys like Adams, the safety who was an undrafted free agent. He made the cut, right? Whereas Calvin Jackson, who we thought would have been on this roster, potentially didn't make the cut. Denzel Mims is still here. Like there were so many things that we just didn't anticipate. But again, that's why we're Jets fans. That's why we're content creators. We're not the professionals. We're not in the mind of one Joe Douglas who's continues to impress. And I think what we should take from this is how impressive it is that no matter how much we think we know or how much we thought we knew, we were off. There was no, I guess, no leakage of information that actually allowed us to kind of properly predict what this team was going to look like. But with that said, it's a pretty impressive roster, I would say, right? Especially when you think about the fact that after we go ahead and drop these players, the New York Jets had a league high 7 individuals picked up off of waivers. That means 7 people that we dropped, right, are currently today, as of this making this video, are on the 53-man roster of other teams. Now that's extremely telling. Who are those 7 guys? The New York Jets legitimately wind up having Pinnock joins the Giants today. The Falcons picked up Adoga. Gidry is now an Arizona Cardinal. We've got Wesco winding up on the Bears. Wild Goose is now a Washington Commander. And then we've got Dunn with the Seahawks and Phillips to the Ravens. So that's 7 players picked up that we dropped. A few of these guys, I'm pretty sure the Jets were taking a gamble and kind of hoping to bring back on the practice squad, but they didn't clear waivers. I mean, again, I don't know about you guys, but this is very telling to know that 7 individuals that weren't good enough for our roster wind up making other rosters in the NFL. And these weren't like scrub teams either. Like, well, I guess some of them are struggling teams. I wouldn't call them scrubs, but they're struggling teams. But the Ravens are considered to be favorites in the AFC, and the Cardinals are considered to be favorites in the NFC. So it's not as if like these teams, lack talent. Like these guys are talented rosters where they went to some teams that they could potentially become starters, or at the very least, third, fourth string guys that are going to provide support. So I saw something earlier today on Twitter. Of course, as Jets fans, we get paranoid and we're freaking out, like, oh man, did we make a mistake by getting rid of some of these guys? Is that what potentially happened here? I don't think so. I think ultimately, man, the Jet staff had eyes on these guys throughout all of OTAs, all of training camp. Some of these guys were here last year as well. It just goes to show just how far we've come since last year, where these guys would have definitively not only been on the roster, several of these guys would have been starters for us as well. But now they were fighting for roster spots. They were on the bubble, but they were good enough to make other teams. So again, kudos to Joe and Robert Saleh for not only finding the talent, but cultivating the talent and putting enough on tape to go ahead and show what these guys can do and get these other teams to go ahead and kind of bite on it. But with that said, we also had no waiver wire pickups of our own today, which was surprising. The Jets had I think the fourth waiver wire, and we didn't claim anybody. I'm still baffled by that. I don't know what to tell you guys about that. Maybe Joe Douglas is working some magic behind the scenes with somebody. We did see that a couple of the safeties we were kind of interested in have gone to other teams. Maybe he's working on getting another offensive tackle. But when you break it down, the roster, our New York Jets depth chart looks like this, right? Um, we literally have, let's see here, three quarterbacks, right? Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White. Although we did bring back Chris Streveler, he is on the practice squad as of the making of this video. Running backs, we carried four running backs, and it's going to be Brees Hall, Michael Carter, T.Y. Johnson, and of course, a fan favorite, Bam Knight. Bam Knight made the roster. I would say he's RB3, vice RB4, but in terms of the depth chart, that's where he's currently kind of lined up at right now. Wide receivers, we're carrying six wide receivers. Those wide receivers are Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Braxton Berrios, Jeff Smith, and of course, Denzel Mims. Now, before you jump the gun, we did release Calvin Jackson, Irvin Charles, and Tariq Black. All three of those guys, as of making this video, have been brought back on the practice squad. So we do have those guys in terms of reserves, which is a plus. Tight end spot. We're only carrying four tight ends. We've got CJ Uzama, we've got Tyler Conklin, we've got Jeremy Ruckert, and Lawrence Cager, another fan favorite. A lot of individuals have been wanting to see him on this roster. He's done pretty well in the preseason. Everybody wants to see him kind of progress in his new role. Robert Saleh said it best. He went from being a slow wide receiver to a fast tight end. He can create a lot of mismatches in this offensive scheme. Like a lot of people don't realize it, but this guy can run routes like a wide receiver, but now has the body build of a tight end. It could be a huge mismatch when it comes to offensive scheming, getting him open. Now, can he be a tight end that can block as well? That still remains to be seen. The effort is there, the energy is there, and I think that, they feel comfortable that he's going to be able to do at least serviceably. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on this roster. Now at tackle, we have Dwayne Brown, George Fant, and Max Mitchell. Surprisingly enough, the New York Jets cut Chuma Adoga, Connor McDermott, and Grant Hermans. I think Grant Hermans did come back on the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. Actually, matter of fact, I don't want to be wrong about that. So 1 second. Yes, I'm correct. He did come back. He is on the practice squad as of the making of this video. It was just kind of surprising though, to kind of see them go down to just three tackles on the roster, which means they feel good about Max Mitchell. Again, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that I feel good about Max Mitchell, but they do, right? They're confident that he can go ahead and pick up the scheme, or they feel good in the health aspects of Dwayne Brown and George Fant. Him being our only swing tackle was so concerned to me. I'm really hoping these guys bring in somebody else. Maybe somebody drops somebody and we can pick them up, and maybe we'll let go of somebody from, I'm sure they'll figure out from where. I don't know where they would let somebody go because, again, a lot of these guys that we've kept on the roster, I wasn't expecting were going to be on the roster. In terms of interior offensive linemen, Laken Tomlinson, of course, AVT. We got Connor McGovern, Nate Herberg, and Dan Feely. At edge, of course, we kept seven edge rushers. Seven. I think I was expecting about 10 defensive linemen to make this roster. Ultimately, 11 made it. All right. So we've got Carl Lawson, JFM, Jermaine Johnson, Jacob Martin, Michael Clemens, Vinnie Curry, and Bryce Huff. We released Bradley Anai and Jabari Zuniga, both of which have since been signed again on our practice squad. So we did reserve those guys. They're on the practice squad right now. But in terms of the 53-man roster, we've got 7 edge rushers, and minus Bradley Anai and Jabari Zuniga, I just told you the rest. Defensive tackle position, we've kept 4. Quinnen Williams, Solomon Thomas, Sheldon Rankins, and Nathan Shepard. Linebackers, we only kept 4. I don't think there's really much of a surprise, though, who those 4 guys are. We got Mosley, We've got Quan Alexander, we got Quincy Williams, and we've got Jamie and Sherwood. Hamzi Nazarene did get released. He was also picked up pretty much off of waivers. Same with Deshaun Phillips. We did bring back DQ Thomas as well on the practice squad. Now for the cornerback room. We've got our boy Ahmad Gardner, Sauce Gardner. Also, happy birthday to him today. He turns 22 years old. So Ahmad Gardner obviously is a starting defensive back on this roster. We got DJ Reed, Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, and Michael Carter II. We released Javian Guidry, Isaiah Dunn, and of course Rashad Wagoose, all of which were picked up today by other teams. Safety position, we are with four: Jordan Whitehead, LaMarcus Joyner, Ashton Davis, Tony Adams. Tony Adams is a surprise to, I think, everybody, right? This is an undrafted free agent that balled out. I mean, the kid has good size. I did watch a video the Buffalo Jets fan put out about the kind of quality he brings to the table. And again, maybe it's the optimism in me. I won't lie to you. I didn't know much about the kid except for preseason. I didn't expect him to make this roster, but he did. He made the roster, so of course I want to be get as much knowledge about who he is, so I can go ahead and speak about him intelligently. And in terms of what I'm seeing, of course, I can see what potentially Robert or Coach Sala saw, right? Like this kid has size, he's got speed, athleticism. He's one of those guys with a high RAS score, and he has effort, right? So apparently they're betting on being able to coach him up. Hopefully we don't have another Ashton Davis situation where you have a high RAS score, but the game just moves a little too fast for him in terms of angles, etc. Ashton Davis, of course, making this roster surprised a ton of us. I don't think a lot of us thought this was going to be the case. The most disappointing cut that I felt from this group was Will Parks. I really thought Will Parks kind of came out in this scheme and really showed out. I know he's going on to his seventh or eighth team, but in terms of what we saw in the preseason, with with the ability to go ahead and impact that safety room, I felt he kind of showed us what he's capable of. But have no fear, the Jets were able to bring him back onto the practice squad, so he will be a part of the team after all. And then we've got special teams. We're looking at Braden Mann, Greg Zerline, Thomas Hennessy, and Justin Hardy. Justin Hardy, for me, is also a surprise. I feel like as a defensive back, he brings very little value. And I know a big portion of why they love him on special teams is because of his leadership potential and ability. But in all actuality, I don't know. I'm not sold on it. But maybe he's an easy cut if we bring somebody else that somebody else cuts. But yeah, Justin Hardy to me was kind of surprised that he's still on this roster as well. So that's your 53-man roster, right? So in terms of, I told you already who got picked up on waivers. So let's talk about who we now have on the practice squad. So as of again the making of this video, the New York Jets have signed 14 players to the practice squad. We have Chris Drevler, fan favorite, he's back. We've got Tariq Black, wide receiver Irvin Charles, wide receiver Calvin Johnson, we got our boy tight end Kenny Yeboah. He's back. We got offensive lineman Chris Glaser, offensive lineman Glenn Hermans. We also have defensive lineman Bradley Anai, defensive lineman Jonathan Marshall, defensive lineman Tenzel Smart, linebacker Hamza Nasruddin, linebacker Shaz Surratt, linebacker DQ Thomas, and of course, safety Will Parks back on the roster. Now, in terms of Chaz Surratt, so Chaz Surratt is, I think, the only individual here that wasn't somebody that we dropped thus far. And he was a third round pick. The kid has size, good athleticism as well. One of those guys that I think they're feeling confident they can probably coach up in the scheme. I haven't done enough research yet to talk about him intelligently, so I'm not going to pretend like I have. I will probably talk about him a little bit more in more detail on the next video or maybe one of my lives. But he's somebody to kind of take a look at. This was a third round talent when he was drafted to get released today, and it's only been about 2 years since he's been in the league. So there's still potentially untapped potential there that we're not aware of. But in terms of this roster, I think what it boils down to is the Jets. They have talent. They had so much talent. We knew there were going to be some cuts that were going to hurt our feelings as Jets fans. I think a lot of us thought we kind of nailed down positions of need as well as skill level, but we're only seeing what we see based off of what they show us. Of course, in snippets in training camp, we don't see these guys every day. Understand what they're looking like behind closed doors, or how those I guess position groups in those rooms look like either. So a lot of us uh, Twitter GMs or YouTube GMs, you know what I'm saying? I'm a little upset about it that we didn't hit. I wanted to hit a higher number of like correct in terms of I was maybe expecting to be off by about 3 to 5. I was off by like 10 to 12. But it is what it is, right? Ultimately, it's exciting. It's exciting. You know, game days and it's in 11 days. I can't wait to get out there to New York to go ahead and watch these guys play. Got some stuff, great stuff planned out to hang out with some content creators. Hopefully, I see some of you guys out there as well. But yeah, go Jets. So your New York Jets roster has been revealed, right? So what surprise cuts that you guys kind of feel salty about that you weren't expecting that probably went to another team? Um, who are you rooting for that made this roster that you weren't expecting to make this roster? And what moves do you want to see the New York Jets make next? I personally still feel that we are lacking in the swing tackle position. I know they like Max Mitchell, but I'm terrified of going in there with Dwayne Brown and George Fant. They both have injury histories, and that's kind of concerning. Throwing the rookie, you know what I'm saying, without having an adequate veteran backup in that role. At swing tackle kind of concerns me. At safety, I want to say I'm concerned, but at the same time, I'm not, right? I feel like if they're this confident with the safety room to where they didn't make a move to pick up any of the people that were dropped on waivers today, we had a fourth waiver priority. If they were really concerned about the safety room, they could have gotten somebody that was released. They didn't make a move to do that. So that tells me that there's some level of comfort there. They also brought Parks back onto the practice squad. And of course, he showed he understands the scheme, or in this scheme, he's able to perform pretty well. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know how to feel. I'm excited nonetheless. Um, we are hearing a lot of chirp about Zach Wilson potentially being ready to go week one. That he's supposedly going to be practicing starting next week. Um, Although exciting, I wouldn't hold my breath. I would rather we err on the side of caution, vice kind of forcing him out there and pushing him a little too soon. But it will be exciting though. I'm gonna be there. Like I'm gonna be there. I would love to see Zach Wilson, attack the Baltimore Ravens defense and bring home the W. But I also believe Joe Flacco can make it work. With that said, my Joe Flacco video is coming up soon. In fact, that'll be dropping tomorrow. But I definitely wanted to go ahead and share with you your New York Jets 53-man roster as of today, August 31st. And who knows? Hopefully, there's something that's in the works that we don't know about. Joe's working his magic. Nonetheless, I'm excited. You should be excited. Go Jets. I'll talk to you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Close your door, Makia.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's be honest. I don't think any of us really saw some of the cuts the New York Jets make that they were going to make. I didn't see Tevin Coleman getting cut, and we would keep John.
All right, guys. Daddy's filming. Go to your room. Get your stuff together.